Well, welcome to a new edition of Win TV. Today, on our new segment that we call Let's Talk. I'm really happy to be with you today. And today we're going to dive deep into the world of culture, art, and events happening around our great city in the District of Columbia. I'm your host, Denise Rollard Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer. And today we have an incredible show lined up for you. Of course, I always like to start off by asking you if you've had a chance to pick up this week's issue of the Washington Informer. This we are a weekly newspaper for those of you all who are new to the program, who may not be in the DMV or in the DMV and just have never seen the Informer. We ask you to go by and pick it up. We come out every Thursday, and we're distributed throughout the DMV. So there are lots of places where you can get the newspaper. And you can also read it online. You can get our digital edition at washingtoninformer.com. While you're there, we'd ask you to take a moment and sign up and get the publication, our digital newsletter sent to you on a daily basis. And we have lots of other offerings that we certainly do want to share with you, including, and I should mention, once a month, we publish an issue called The Bridge, WI Bridge, and it's our publication that's written for, about, and by millennials in the DMV. And of course, they're getting older now, so we have to say that they're reflecting more on Gen Zers and what have you. And this week I'm going to see if I can take a moment and pull this out since we didn't have one on the screen. The cover of this week's, which is always very creative. It's more of a creative piece, which focuses on local creatives in the DMV. I wish I could get this open. Local creatives in the DMV. And so this edition, I don't know if you'll be able to see really what this is. I know I can't really tell what this is. Oh, it's candy. That's what it is. But at any rate, this is the cover of The Bridge. And they're doing a lot of coverage of artists, art creators, designers, you name it, that are here in the DMV. So check out The Bridge in addition to our weekly issue of the Washington Informer. I'm making all this noise with the newspaper, but that's why we like newspapers, because we can turn pages, we can go back, we can cut things out and save them for the rest of our family and friends to see. And, I'm really excited because in just a couple of, actually next week, we're going into time to observe and celebrate the 59th anniversary of the Washington Informer, which was started by my late dad, Dr. Calvin W. Rolark in 1964. And so I hope that you will be able to become a member of the Washington Informer family by signing up online and letting us continue to serve you with the news that you can use from the DMV. We call it your link to the Black community. Be sure to click like and share to this broadcast on your social media platforms and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, also known as X and YouTube. And we even have are present on Threads and LinkedIn. So we want to make sure you follow us on all of those channels where we will continue, as I said, to do what we do. Provide us with the news, provide you with the news you can use, and keep you up to date with the latest events in the DMV. So again, don't forget to subscribe to our Informer Network at washingtoninformer.com, and to subscribe to our YouTube channel, make sure you've subscribe to Washington Informer TV. That's one word on YouTube, Washington Informer TV. There you can find many of our older shows. It's amazing that we've been doing this for more than 4 years, but we keep doing it, and we have some fantastic guests, like the ones we're honored to be joining us today, who are remarkable individuals who are contributing to our artistic community. We're thrilled to have Rosemary Suggs Evans, Deputy Director of the DC Department of Small Local Development in the District of Columbia, who's here to talk to us about Art All Night and Dine All Night happening all over the city this weekend. And we have the esteemed Artistic Director of the March on Washington Film Festival, Isasara Bay, and she's here today to talk about the film festival, which started on Wednesday. Our lifestyle reporter, Brenda Seiler, had an amazing conversation with Pearl Klieg about her new play at Forge Theater. We'll watch the recorded interview from Live Presents before we close out today. So before we bring on our guests, let's watch our weekly news broadcast by Curtis Knowles.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. The killer of the tech CEO Pavel Lapierre was apprehended Wednesday at a train station in Bowie, Maryland, ending a frantic manhunt for the convicted sex offender who had been sentenced to 30 years in prison. The suspect, Jason Dean Bingsley, Baltimore police also believe was responsible for an arson, rape, and attempted murder that happened on September 19th. Pavel Lapierre co-founded EcoMap at the age of 21 while she was still attending college at Johns Hopkins University. Lapierre's dedication to supporting young entrepreneurs and building a tech community in Baltimore means that she has left behind a legacy that won't be easily forgotten, according to her friend and mentor, Corey Bailey. The second annual Prince George's Film Festival returns Wednesday, September 27th through Sunday, October 1st. The festival officially kicks off Thursday evening with the screening of The Deadly Getaway at the Center for Performing Arts at Prince George's Community College in Largo at 5:30 p.m. Marketing director Keisha Mason said it was an opportunity to get familiar with new independent filmmakers as well as support locals in the industry. She commented saying, quote, "The feedback we receive from attendees is that they really love the workshops. One purpose of the film festival is to convene creators and filmmakers in one space to learn from top industry professionals. It is going to be a celebration of film, art, and culture." The United States Postal Service recently announced some peak holiday season initiatives. Agency officials said that the 2022 peak season was a success, and as a result, the Postal Service will have no holiday demand surcharges. Plus, the agency is set to hire more than 10,000 seasonal employees, utilizing 348 new package sorting machines, increasing daily processing capacity to about 70 million, moving 95% of volume via more reliable ground transportation, and a new shipping solution, the USPS Ground Advantage.
Thank you very much, Curtis. Moving on with the show, I am excited to bring on Isasara Bay, the artistic director for the March on Washington Film Festival, and to talk to her about what's going on in Washington, D.C., and the opportunities that you can participate in during this next few days. Isasara, welcome to WIN TV.
Thank you so much, Denise.
First of all, the graphics for this is amazing. Every time I see it in my email, it is one of those things that makes you say, I've got to go to this. It speaks to, I think, where we are. I just left the conference with the Association for the Study of African-American Life and History. The theme for Black History Month or this year is Black Resistance. And Pulpits Protest Empower. It's amazing, amazing theme. But before we get into the film festival, I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about you and your role as the artistic director.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And our artist, Nicole Backus, will be thrilled to know that her artwork is so well received.
Oh, yes.
I've been artistic director of the March on Washington Film Festival for almost 10 years, and we're about 11 years old. We were founded on the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington by Robert Rabin. Our mission is to tell the mistold, silenced, and untold stories of the civil rights movement's well-known icons and the legion of foot soldiers that moved us forward in the 50s and 60s. We tie those events to contemporary activism, both the events themselves and the people who are activists now in this country and abroad. We do this through films, of course, we're a film festival, but we use all of the visual arts. And we present academic scholars, panelists, presenters, leaders of nonprofit organizations and other community organizations around the country. This is a multifaceted story we're trying to tell, and we want to tell it in a number of different ways. So as you'll see when you visit the festival website at mowff.org, there'll be films, of course, panel presentations, a lot of virtual presentations, as well as live ones.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And one of the things, Isasara, as we are being challenged with the teaching of Black history across this country, the stories that we are hearing about our history that are untold. I mean, you talked about some of the folks in the civil rights movement, some of the civil rights giants who we have overlooked. So in your 10 years of being involved with this, um, share something that, just really made you say, why didn't I know this?
There are so many. I think one of the privileges of doing this is that we also bring some of those people who were stalwarts in the movement to Washington for our live events. And many of them are in their 70s and 80s, and post-pandemic, some of them can't travel anymore. But I'm going to tell the story of one. So we are all familiar with, many of us are, I'm sure, the bombing of the 16th Street Church.
Right. We just celebrated not celebrated, but
Yes,
observed
exactly.
the anniversary of that. Right.
Exactly. And we know the 4 little girls who were in the basement that were killed, the basement of the church. They were closest to the bomb. But there were 5 little girls in that basement. 2 sisters. One sister, Addie, died. The other, Sarah Collins, survived. She lost an eye, suffered other injuries, and is alive today. We brought her to the festival several years ago and have been in touch with her since. She's come to other events that we have programmed. And one of the things that she brought home for us is the fact that while other American victims of domestic terror, like 9/11, for example, have been helped and compensated for their families, for their loss, and for their injuries, nothing has happened for the victims of racial domestic terror, like the families of these 4 little girls. And no mental health, no physical compensation, no assistance in getting through life. So we took it upon ourselves and some others that we know to join some forces. And recently, a fund was created to help these victims of domestic terror. Sarah has said she does not, of course, begrudge anything for the victims. One of them was her sister. But for the legion of people who survive with injuries, with mental injuries, a loss of income or the ability to work, something needs to be done to acknowledge their sacrifice. So we were pleased to see that this fund was started in the past year that will directly impact them.
That's amazing, and that's a that's a little known Black history fact as well. So I'm glad that you're sharing that with us, because I'm sure there are folks in the community who might even want to support that fund, which takes me to the conversation of collaborations and partnerships. I mean, how has that supported your work there at the film festival?
Oh, immeasurably. I was searching for the word. One partnership in particular I'm very excited about right here in Washington, D.C., is our partnership with the Duke Ellington School of the Arts. Part of our mission also, and my personal intention, is to involve as many young people as possible in the festival. And so we created this collaboration with the Duke Ellington School, and we're doing several days of activities in the school. Yesterday, we hosted a screening in the school. It was a school-wide assembly of the new documentary Going to Mars, which is the Nikki Giovanni project. It was really exciting to watch these young people absorb her life story, her writings, her activism, her work as a teacher over the years, metaphored with this whole thing of African Americans going to Mars and why us as explorers is so important. And watching their reception, they were really open and listened. You could hear a pin drop at points. So we were pleased to bring these young budding artists that documentary. We also have been hosting a 2-day virtual reality pop-up salon in the school. We brought 3 virtual and augmented reality creators and their pieces along with headsets. And so throughout the day yesterday and today, students have been coming in to see one of the 3 pieces. And we have 8 students who we taught to be docents to help them with the headsets and to recharge them and to explain what was happening. And finally, our Saturday night event, the big event of the festival, which is the embodiment of our theme, Pulpits, Protest, and Power, is being held at the Duke Ellington School of the Arts. And scores of their students will be our stage managers and production assistants, as they have been doing over the last 3 or 4 days. That program features 3 ministers. One, Delman Coates, Reverend Delman Coates, will be speaking about the young activists of the 50s and 60s who were organizers as well as preachers, and some became politicians.
Mhm.
They were young college students in their 20s. So he's going to speak about their impact and development in the movement. The second minister is Rahel Tesfamariam. She is going to be getting her reverend soon. And she's also a journalist and founder of an online entity called Urban Plus. She has done activism at Ferguson and Black Lives Matter and in Africa. So she's going to talk about contemporary activists, especially.
If I can also, sorry for interrupting, but if I can also say, Rahel served for a period of time as one of our former editors at the Washington.
Wonderful. Oh, good. So we have a family connection here.
Yes, we do. Exactly.
And the third minister is Stephen Green, pastor of a church in Harlem. And he will go into the future. He's in his 20s. He is going to project what activism in the future will be for him and his peers. What impact will climate change have, or AI? What tools will they use? I told him to take us into the Afro future 20, 30 years from now. All of that will be augmented by dance and music and a special set with our guest artist, Yolanda Adams. So all of that's going to be Saturday evening at the Duke Ellington School of the Arts, and everyone is welcome.
That's, again, a very amazing and exciting program that you've outlined. And we're going to go back and make sure that folks understand date, location, time before we leave. But I also want to know, because we're talking about filmmakers, can you talk about some of those whose films have been included, maybe some names, or how this idea works with emerging filmmakers?
Oh, I'm happy to. So one example is we have a cadre of Howard University students, some alum and some contemporary students who are filmmakers. They have been our volunteers. And so after each of our events, which actually started with our pre-event screening last Sunday, they have met with the directors or musical composers of those films privately after our events to get some career guidance. The other thing is we have for 8 years a student and emerging filmmaker competition. We get entries from not only all of the country, but often up to a dozen international countries. And they're in the categories of student narrative, student documentary, emerging narrative, emerging documentary. And so our grand prizes are awarded tomorrow evening at the start of the event at the Duke Ellington School of the Arts. And on Saturday morning, we are streaming all of the finalist films at the Eaton Hotel, where I am right now, our partner hotel for the festival. And that is also going to be streamed online, as well as the events tomorrow evening at the Duke Ellington School. So we are working with filmmakers now and filmmakers to come.
I'm still curious because I love the concept of a film festival focusing on the March on Washington. But can you tell us where that concept came from? Whose idea was it?
The idea was our founder, Robert Rabin. Okay. And he, for many years, participated in Representative John Lewis's annual pilgrimage to civil rights sites in the South. Every March he would go. And Robert's been many times. And one time he went, he spoke with an elderly woman in a church where they stopped. And it occurred to him that there are so many stories from the foot soldiers, from the people we don't know, who were the backbone of the movement, who sacrificed losing their land or losing their work or losing their lives. And that was the impetus. He started with just showing a few films in Washington, D.C. with a couple of friends. And after it was so well received the first year, he called me. We had done some work in the past to say, I think this is going to be something. Do you want to see if you want to come and help me with it? And I've been here ever since.
Wow. And so as the film festival has evolved, tell us what's changed, what you've added, what from the beginning to where we are today. How has the film festival evolved?
Well, one thing, as I mentioned before, after about 3 years, we added the student and emerging filmmaker competition.
Right.
And actually, this year we are holding an alumni luncheon. So some of our past winners are going to come back, mentor the new ones, mentor each other, talk about what they've been doing. We added a year or so ago, we got a great grant from Meta. And so we took some of those past winners and put them through a year-long curriculum of learning how to use virtual reality and augmented reality. They had several weeks of online Zoom classes. We took them to a motion capture studio in California. They have created or started their own VR projects. So those fellows were part of our festival last year. Another way that we have grown is we moving also from some of the activists who are now in their 80s and 90s, and some have passed away, some are not well enough to travel, but we're continuing to tell their story, and then moving back a decade or so for some of the younger activists, and by younger I mean those in their 60s and 50s, to talk about what they're doing, as well as tying it to the contemporary activists of today. The other thing that we've noted, particularly since in 2020, that year of the pandemic, we went completely virtual. So now we're a hybrid festival. We noted this morning that we have people buying virtual passes and streaming from 7 international countries and 47 of the 50 states. So we've grown in that way too. Our first few years, everything was held in Washington, D.C., and it was all live events. And now we are hybrid.
Doesn't it make you feel good, Isisara, to see such tremendous interest in this? I mean, and one, because now we have the resources to make sure that this is available to a wider audience. But one would think that folks might not be interested in these types of stories, but you're proving
Yes, we have. And there have been examples in the past. I didn't realize it until I was listening to our panelists in one of our virtual panels, which is From Marcus to Malcolm. I said that this theme this year is the church and the civil rights movement. From Marcus to Malcolm is a panel that focused on the Pan-Africanist Islamist movement in this country from the beginning of the 20th century with Marcus Garvey and the UNIA, the Nation of Islam, the Moorish Science Temple, and Malcolm's organization, particularly in the last couple of years of his life, with the emphasis on human rights. So I didn't know until one of the speakers told me that during the original March on Washington for Jobs and Freedoms, there were marches in sympathy in over a dozen countries around the world.
Wow, yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of people gathering in countries around the world, similar to what we saw after George Floyd died in the year of the Black Lives Matter around the world. So we are an example, we are an inspiration, we are the focus of the attention and the solidarity of justice-seeking people all over the world.
Is the conference the festival normally held around this time every year?
Yes, it is normally held around this time every year, although each year since we were in the summer originally and moved it so that we could get the participation of members of Congress who, they take vacation in the summer. And we also wanted to come in the fall so we could really engage students who are not in school during the summer. Mm-hmm. But I'm noticing that this time of year is getting more and more crowded with events, so we may be pushing a little bit. We'll see how it goes. But yes, we are usually this time of year.
Oh, I'm just letting folks know to mentally mark their calendars.
Yes,
they can still participate. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how folks can be a part of this one more time, and whether there's any costs, what have you.
So on www.mowff.org, that's the initials of March on Washington Film Festival. You can go there. You can get a virtual pass. You can get a pass for individual events or screenings. And there's also a pay what you can option. So there are lots of opportunities for folks to engage with the film festival. Sometimes people get a general pass and then they make a donation as well. So we don't want to bar entry for anyone. So please go on the website and take full advantage. And we will keep all of our virtual events and the live events that we've streamed up for an additional week until October 7th. So lots of time to participate in the festival and still time to come in person.
I know you got to run, but I know when that phone call came to you to actually help with this project, it just wasn't a person arbitrarily calling someone in their phone book. It had to have been someone who had some real background in this. Tell us who you are.
Oh, thank you for asking. I have had, as many people have, a multifaceted career, but always at this intersection of entertainment and media, history and culture. I started in radio right up the road at WEAA.
Oh yeah, I used to listen to the station. It's the only station I could get where I lived over in Northeast DC.
Yeah, I was on air for 4 or 5 years, Monday through Friday. Moved over to WJZ Television and was a news producer and on air on the weekends. And then I made the jump to Columbia Pictures and worked for Sony Pictures Entertainment. Sony bought it the year after I joined the company. So part of that was in New York, part of it was in Los Angeles. And then I transferred to Sony Music in New York. So I had 20 years of film, more than 20 years of film and television, radio, and the music business. And then while I was at Sony Music is when I met Robert. We were able together to help create a retreat from which the Congressional Tri-Caucus was formed. I was on the board of the CBCF, wanted to find a way to support the CBC and asked the chair at the time and what was on his wish list. And he said better relations between the minority caucuses. So following the lead of Representative Eddie Bernice Johnson, we were able to pull together a retreat, the first one in Virginia, 21 members attended, the second one in Puerto Rico, 25 members attended, and the third in Texas. And out of that came the Congressional Tri-Caucus. And these 3 caucuses continue now to sponsor bills and hold town halls and work together. So Robert and I have had a history of making great things happen. So of course, when he called, I was eager to see what he was up to.
Yeah, well, he knew who to call. It's one of those, who you're going to call.
Who you going to call? Yeah.
That's who we're going to call. So I really thank you because we called as well to see if you could share this great information with us about the Civil Rights Film Festival and March on Washington Film Festival. And it looks like it's going to be a great. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. And we look forward to having you back next year and knowing what's going to be coming next year. So thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. Take care.
All righty. You too. Yeah, something you might want to check out, and it is virtual, so that's a good thing. I know last week we had a lot of community events out there, 8th Street Festival, all kinds of things were going on throughout the city, and people were out and about. And in the district, we certainly want to see more of that. But a film fest is a cool thing too, so hopefully you will get a chance to partake of the wonderful programming that has just been shared with us. But speaking of events, I am also excited to have with us Rosemary Suggs Evans, who is the Deputy Director of the DC Department of Small and Local Development, who's going to talk about Art All Night and Dine All Night, which is coming up actually tonight. Just let folks know what to look for. Art All Night has spread. I don't know if Rosemary's with us, but we certainly would like for her to jump on. But Art All Night started off as I'm not going to tell you. Let's start with the video, and then we'll come back and talk about how this event has evolved in the District of Columbia. Wow. uh, Deputy Director Suggs Evans, this is going to be an exciting event. Welcome to WIN TV, and get us ready for what we have to look forward to tonight all across the District of Columbia.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me. It is going to be an exciting 2 nights. We have been working, the team has been working extremely hard with our creative economy, our artists. Art All Night has been around, we are in our 12th year. And Art All Night is about celebrating our creative economy and bringing that creative economy to our commercial corridors and supporting our local and our local small businesses um, throughout a 2 day event of art, from food to painting to music to dance to you name it.
Well, I think that every part of the city has been able to benefit and enjoy this annual event. Can you share with us what those venues are this year?
Oh, we have over 100 activations across all 8 wards of the district. So there will be events in Shaw, there will be events in Congress Heights. We will have a big event at the MLK Library on Saturday. Um, there will be an event tonight at Anacostia Bid will be hosting an event, and Deanwood Heights. It's tons of activations. So I would encourage all of our listeners to go to dcartallnight.org, where they can get a list of all the activations that are happening. There will be information on restaurants participating in Dine On Night. So we don't want you just to go to the events, but we want you to go and grab some food too. Some wonderful food.
Have you all been able to determine what the economic impact of Art All Night is, either not only for the city, but maybe for the participants as well? I mean, this is a big night, and it's a folks get a chance to have a wide audience.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, I don't know if it costs for participants to be a part of setting up and promoting their wares, but to talk about this from an economic standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, there are some costs certainly for our all the activations, our main streets to participate. But I think what Art All Night has shown, definitely over the 12 years, and what we have heard, particularly not only from the artists participating, but from our small businesses, is that it's one of the best nights of the year, whether it's from restaurants, whether it's from retail establishments. This 2 day event is generated a significant has a significant impact on their bottom line, and so that's why we continue to get more and more um, retail businesses participating, and more main streets and other folks wanting to participate in Art All Night. So it also, in helping the artists, sometimes we forget that artists are entrepreneurs, they're small businesses too, and so it's beneficial to them that we give them a platform to show their art, show their work.
I'm actually sitting in front, I think I'm gonna pull it over, of a piece of art that I bought last year. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it is.
Yeah.
And the artist, his name is Josiah Moore, and he is 9 years old.
Oh my Lord.
And
Yes.
that night, you're talking about seeing the entrepreneurship in an artist.
Yeah.
He was both. He was both. I mean, people were buying his framed paintings all night over in Congress Heights. So I mean, there doesn't even seem to be a limit on who can participate and what they can share.
Yeah, no, it's about celebrating our artists, right? And oftentimes, and it's a way, I think, in a fun and exciting way, that sometimes art can be intimidating for some, but not through Art All Night. It is fun. Bring your families, bring your grandparents. It's a fun way to expose yourself to art in not intimidating way, right? So
Right. And you know, it's DC is an attraction for a lot of things. One also is its theater community. But have you noticed whether folks from other areas come to the city to participate in Art All Night?
well, that's one of the things we can't say that we track that, but we do know that folks locally, you know, from Maryland and Virginia come. There have been even some artists asking if they could participate, knowing what a successful event this is and how artists are really showcased through these 2 nights. So we continue to hope to grow it. Last year we had over 180,000 people participating.
Wow.
So this is an exciting event that 12 years in, we continue to grow.
We're going to keep our fingers crossed. But one of the things that I think I've observed over the last, since Art All Night has started, is that the community is so excited about being there. There's not necessarily an overly abundance of police presence, although you know that they're there, but it seems to be a pretty safe event. Can you talk
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, we've been we're going into our 12th year, and it's been an event again that many people, families, bring their kids, and we have been very fortunate, and we continue to partner with MPD, and the main streets that are participating are partnering with MPD, and they all have a schedule, and so we are going to enjoy the art. This is a fun event, and we are hoping that folks can celebrate the uniqueness within their community and focus on that
You
these
know,
2 nights.
yeah, that's fantastic. That's what's been happening up to this point. So we're gonna only expect that tonight,
Hmm.
tomorrow night. In addition to that, you've added now we have Dine All Night. Now this is new to me, but how long? When did Dine All Night become a part?
Dine All Night is started this year, September 21st through October 1st. The mayor charged the director and the agency with growing Art All Night and how can we expand that. And Dine All Night came to be, and it has been such a wonderful success. We have over 60 restaurants participating, um, all different kinds of food. And one of the things that I've said is that it brings you into our the culinary experience. It brings you into the lives of some of our chefs, right? Because some of these restaurants, the owners are serving us recipes that have been taught down and brought down from great grandparents to their parents, and so it gives you a little bit of an insight into who these people are, who our chefs are, so it's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, and then how can we find out about what the list of participating restaurants? Where can we find those?
DCArtallnight.org
Okay.
will give you a list of all of the restaurants that are participating, all of the activations that we have going on for Art All Night starting tonight and tomorrow. So I would encourage everyone to go to DCArtallnight.org. That's where you'll get all the information and you can plan your adventures accordingly. Let's stop off and get some food, get energy, go to one of the activations, may have to stop, get some hydration, and then go to another activation.
The time schedule, if you don't mind me asking that as well. I mean, we hear Art All Night, but it's not all night, or is it all night?
Well, I think all night is relative for some, so it will, for me, it may be a little bit earlier, but
Right.
tonight we go till, I believe it's 1 in the morning. And on Saturday, it's a little bit later. It will go till 3 a.m.
Okay.
So for me, that's all night.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I know that part of that also means that there will be a lot of street closings across the city. People have some challenges navigating. So what do you recommend for people that might want to visit various activations? Would they use Metro, or what's the best way to get
Oh,
around?
absolutely. I would certainly recommend Metro. I would not encourage folks to drive just because there are going to be some street closures. I know for the Martin Luther King Library, there's going to be street closures. Congress Heights, there's going to be street closures. Our Shaw Main Street activation, there's going to be street closures. So let's everybody go ahead and use Metro. Grab a friend, grab a family member, and use Metro.
Wonderful. Before we go, Deputy Director Suggs Evans, is there anything? I mean, we talked about Dine All Night, and I don't know. I just really want to find out if there's anything we've missed. But can you give us maybe one event that is really adding something new to Art All Night besides Dine All Night this year?
I think not just Dine All Night, but I think each year the activations for Art All Night are different, right? It's what is unique about this event is that each activation is going to be different, and it's going to represent that community and what may have happened last year in that community and the changes and what's happening now. And so that's why, you can say, I'm going to go over to Petworth. Well, no, I'm not going to Petworth because I was there last year, but it's going to be something different this year. And that's what's unique about the district. And it's just the richness of diversity, the changes that we see that are happening, and it's all exciting. So I just encourage, don't limit yourself to saying, oh, I'm not going to go here because I was there last year. It may be something totally different.
All right. Well, let's go find something totally different to enjoy tonight and tomorrow night at Art All Night, as well as
Yes.
All Night. I want to thank you so very much for being with us. Is there anything I missed?
You did not miss anything. I'm looking forward to seeing you. For those that need to, please rest up because we are getting ready. We're ready to go.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We thank you so very much for being with us today, and looking forward to a great, great weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
All righty. Bye-bye. Yeah, so fortunately, it looks like the weather's going to hold up, and it looks like it'll be a great weekend. So hopefully you will get on out there and enjoy Art All Night. Art All Night, and enjoy all that the city has to offer. There's so much talent here in DC, and this is one way of supporting the community, particularly our younger residents and older ones as well. The talent, the creativity, all of that. So we thank the mayor and everybody who is making this event happen, and the community organizations who we didn't mention, who are actually behind a lot of these activations. So again, get on out there and celebrate. We are now going to turn to a conversation our lifestyle editor or lifestyle reporter, Brenda Seiler, had with playwright and author Pearl Klieg. Thank you for watching today, and I'll see you next week, and enjoy your weekend. Let me just say in closing, before we go to this video, that I think it's important for everybody to face the reality that COVID is here and it's on the move. So whatever you do, make sure you wear your mask in public places. It's very important to do that, and to take care of yourself. It's back. It's as the weather changes, I think it's going to get a little bit more widespread. Here on WIN TV, we will have more conversations about COVID and what the local health community is doing to cut down on the spread, and also what's available to those people who may actually end up with COVID. So as we do that, the one thing we know that works is to wear your mask. I'm going to continue to say that. And so that you, like others I know, don't have regrets for not wearing theirs. So until then, have a great weekend, but don't go away. Let's enjoy this interview with our lifestyle reporter, Brenda Seiler, with Pearl Klieg, and we will see you next week.
We are honored today with our special guest, playwright and author Pearl Klieg, who is about to have a world premiere of her brand new play. It's called Something Moving, a meditation on Maynard.
Thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure to see you.
And it's so wonderful. The thing that Pearl and I have in common, we are both Spelman alumni, and it's always wonderful to talk to another Spelman sister who has some wonderful things to share with us. Something Moving, a meditation on Maynard. For those who are familiar with Atlanta, I'm sure they realize that is about Mayor Maynard Jackson. Tell us about the performance that starts at Ford Theater in about 2 weeks.
The play actually was commissioned by Ford's as part of their legacy commissions, and they commissioned playwrights around the country to look at a historical figure that we felt wasn't getting the attention that they needed, didn't have the light on them that they should have. And immediately when they invited me to be a part of the commissioning program, I knew I wanted to do a piece about Maynard. We're coming up on the 50th anniversary of his election as our first African-American mayor. And he was such an extraordinary person. He did such amazing things and really transformed the city in many ways that we can still see. So I wanted to write about him, but I didn't want to write a kind of a, this is a biopic. Here's what he did when he was 6. Here's what he did when he graduated from Morehouse. I wanted to look back at how it felt to be in Atlanta at that moment, to have a more personal kind of view of what that moment felt like, what it felt like to be a part of the campaign, to be a part of that first administration. And I worked in that campaign and then went to work at City Hall for a couple of years with Maynard. So I felt like nobody was really better qualified to write about that than I was.
But one of the things with the title of this play, Something Moving, a meditation on Maynard, appears to be like what I call a subtitle underneath it, the election that changed the game. Talk a little bit about that and what people will understand about that by seeing this play.
Well, I think that one of the things that they will really get is that Maynard was elected not long after the passage of the Voting Rights Act, so that we hadn't even had a chance to legally vote, many of the people who lived in Atlanta, until Maynard was running for office, first for vice mayor and then for mayor, so that there was a tremendous rush of energy around this election. This is our first time, and we've got a great guy who we know is going to do the right thing. And people came out in numbers that were unprecedented from all over the city. And I think that one of the reasons that I really wanted to talk about it now is because not only did it change the game for Atlanta, but it also ushered in a whole era of Black mayors and the work that they could do, the work that they were doing. And it's so important for us to remember how important voting is and was. It's so important now to think about democracy. We can critique what happens when it isn't working right, but this play is really looking at a moment when it was working right, when citizens came together, didn't always agree on everything, but came together to do something together. And the fact that this play is being done at Ford's Theater, which has such an important part in the history of the country, really is an honor for me to be in that theater, thinking about issues of democracy and citizenship, and the absolute joy that you feel when you participate. I mean, you said you registered to vote for the first time. It's a wonderful feeling, and it has to be a feeling that we can pass on to younger people, not by saying you better vote, you got to vote, people died for your right to vote, all of which is true. But they need to understand that this is part of the process of claiming their country, of being a part of their country, and of feeling the absolute joy that you feel when your candidate wins and you know they're going to do the right thing. I'll never forget Maynard's first election night, because I had worked in campaigns my whole life. I grew up in a very political family, but they were usually really radical people who had never won. So this was the first time I worked in a campaign where the candidate won. And it was just such an amazing feeling to know that now the work is going to begin, but also that when we all work together, we can really do something that is profound and life-changing, not only for us all individually, but for that community that's putting this guy forward.
This is Informer Live. It's a special chat we're having with playwright Pearl Cleage. She's coming to Atlanta to present her new production. It's called Something Moving, a Meditation on Maynard. It will be at Ford's Theater from September 22nd to October 15th. You will want to see this. You will want to learn from a historical perspective about a gentleman, Maynard Jackson, native Atlantan, who became Atlanta's first Black mayor and really the first Black mayor of a major Southern city. That was also very significant in terms of the time and the role that he was able to get in as being mayor of Atlanta. And if you look at Atlanta now, the airport is named after Maynard Jackson.
Yes.
I do believe it is still the busiest airport in the United States. So I think that represents just what a major impact that he had on politics and business in Atlanta.
That's the truth. And our airport is not just the busiest airport in the country. It's one of the top 2 busiest airports in the world. And one of the things that was so important about what Maynard did was when it was time to expand the Atlanta airport, the city was growing, the airlines wanted to expand. He said, we will definitely do that. And we're going to do it with unprecedented levels of Black involvement. Every step of the way, we're going to do business. We are not just going to say, great, a new airport for our city. We're going to say, we've got some Black companies that can do paving. We've got Black companies that can do food service. We've got Black people in Atlanta who can do every single thing that airport is going to need to become the wonderful place that it became. And that was kind of surprising for some people at that time, because the mayor had not been a person who was active in trying to be more inclusive. And this was the first time we had a mayor who said, no, we're all going to benefit by what happens in this town. So it really, the airport stands as a real monument to the fact that he encouraged Black businesses. He encouraged businesses in a way that made all of the business that's now done in Atlanta much more diverse. You know, we look much more like what America looks like now, rather than we're all together in community. But when we see where the power is, it doesn't look like us. In Atlanta, the power looks like us. And Maynard is a big part of that, which is why I think it's really wonderful to have this play premiering, having its world premiere in Washington, D.C., because that is also a place where, you know, politics looks different than it used to. It's more diverse. There is a lot going on. It's transitional in this moment in our country, but it also is a moment when community coming together is so important, when leadership is so important. And, you know, you can't really look at American history and think that there is a leader who had more impact than Abraham Lincoln. So we're doing a play about leadership, about public service in that building, which I think just means so much to me as a playwright, and also to just the depth of the play, of the experience of the play. It's a beautiful, beautiful theater Ford's Theater is.
Thank you for bringing this story. Full disclosure, when I really met Pearl, I was a reporter and she was Maynard Jackson's public information officer.
Yeah.
And she kind of courted me through, you can't do that. No, stand over there, that kind of thing. So it was very helpful.
The job I ever had, right?
I loved it, and I appreciated your support there. And again, remind you that Something Moving, a meditation on Maynard by Pearl Cleage, has its world premiere. This is a world premiere at Ford's Theater on September 22nd. The performances go until October 15th.